Awesome. Welcome everyone to our webinar titled Future-Proof Your Business with Open Banking in 2023 and Beyond. My name is Karina. Welcome everyone. And I'll be your and our host and moderator for the next 45 minutes or an hour or so. As everyone and people are still joining, I'm just going to start us off with a bit of ground rules for the session. So all of the attendees are muted, but if you have any question, opinion, thoughts, or comments, please use the Q&A box. We will have time in the end to take your questions, so please do post them there throughout the session. The recording will be sent to you after the webinar, so please don't worry if you feel like you missed anything. You will receive that in your inbox, and you can always rewatch it and see the best bits for yourself. As you can tell, I am not here on my own. I'm here with Ralph and Shelley. So what we'll do now is just do a very quick introduction. So Shelley, I'll start off with you. If you could give us the audience just quickly your name and intro to Junie.
Sure. I'm Shelley Haverman. I am product director for money management at a company called Junie. I'm based out of Cape Town, South Africa. We are a fully remote company, even though we're founded in Sweden, sort of halfway between Stockholm and Gothenburg, depending on who you ask. Our specialization is to solve, we call ourselves the power behind financial leaders in the digital commerce space, or alternatively, we're the financial companion for e-commerce businesses. And what that really means is we want to be part of the journey with e-commerce businesses in offering them financial solutions that vary across the tech stack that help them to power their businesses forward. And we use open banking in a variety of ways. We use it to onboard customers to some extent. We use it to do credit scoring and underwriting, and we also power payments both in and out using open banking. So we're very excited to be here. Thanks for the opportunity.
Awesome, great, Shelley, thanks. Ralph, same thing on you. If you can give us a quick intro on yourself and as well and a quick spotlight on Cresco, that'd be fantastic.
Great, hi. I'm the CEO and co-founder here at Cresco. We look after SMEs, probably those with 50 employees or less, and we handle both the accounts receivables and accounts payables, primarily through account-to-account payments or open banking payments. And the thesis is, the B2C payment experience, whether you're paying on your phone by sort of Apple Pay, is a great user experience, but paying invoices is very painful, and we've leveraged open banking to solve that problem.
Awesome, fantastic. Well, really happy to have this conversation with both of you. Just for the audience, again, myself, I'm Karina. At my day job, I lead product innovation and product marketing at Yapily. We are an open banking infrastructure platform, and we help businesses to maximize their potential with open banking. For those of you that are tuning in and are new to the concept of open banking, essentially it enables access to financial data and payments with users' consent. And all of that is done with the API, with the help of an API. And as you can imagine, that unlocks a myriad of different use cases, and we'll be looking into some of those as part of today's conversation. And I guess for the audience and for the session today, to lay the foundations of today's conversation, we'll be talking about the current economic climate and unpacking what that means for businesses that are looking to ensure their business continuity, that are seeking to reduce their administrative costs, and most importantly, to better serve their customers. We'll be exploring this from the lens of open banking, naturally, and how open banking, the technology, can help accelerate product performance, especially in this climate when access to the funds is limited and budget and cash flow management is essential at every business. So I am very, very excited to be here with Shelley and Ralph. Each one of us have a very unique perspective on today's topic, and we're really looking forward to be sharing this conversation with the wider audience. Again, please use the Q&A box to share your thoughts and questions as well as we go along. But we hope that we'll give you some insights on what are some of the challenges for businesses, for business customers specifically in today's in current climate. We'll be discussing how open banking can be a driving force for growth and retention in every business. And we'll share some learnings. Well, Ralph and Shelley will share some learnings on Junie and Cresco and their open banking journey, and also what the future holds. So we'll start off with a quick audience poll. So we would love to understand, where are you in your journey with open banking? Whether you're already using open banking, whether you're in the process of implementing open banking, maybe you and your business are currently looking for open banking solutions, or you're very, very early in your journey, you're still learning about open banking, you're still exploring its benefits and use cases and trying to understand a bit more. So we'll still be collecting some of the responses, so I'll give a few more seconds as they come in. Okay. Very interesting answers, because I can see your answers coming through. Okay, 2 more seconds. All right, so I'll be closing off the poll and sharing some of the results. Okay, quite interesting what we see today. Majority of our audience are already using open banking, so that's fantastic. We hope that today's conversation will give you insight on, particularly from Junie's and Cresco's perspective, on some of the journey that they've gone through, unlock some of the use cases. And we have another big portion exploring open banking and its benefits. Again, I'll be hiding the results. Maybe that's one for Ralph and Shelley. As we go through the discussion, let's think if there's any kind of key takeaways that we need to sort of cater for as we considering who we currently have in the audience. But I guess let's start off with a bit of a spotlight on our guests today. I think both of you covered briefly Junie and Cresco, but maybe let's kind of take a level deeper into what's behind the hood. And Shelley, if you could give us a little bit more context on who is your main customer and the particular problems that you are solving for them, and outlining into level of detail in terms of your use cases using open banking, how that has enabled Junie.
Sure. So we're focused on the e-commerce space. So we have a very specific niche, and we cover e-commerce businesses throughout their life cycle. And our ethos is really to help them grow and to be there as a companion, offering financial services and support as they navigate the very complex world. And I think that's very relevant also, in tough economic times, as you said. For us, it's really all about financial data. We've set out to solve the problem of giving financial leaders in e-commerce businesses this unified view on their financial state, if you will. So very often businesses hold multiple accounts across multiple financial services, banks, and other service providers. And we give them the opportunity to surface that data into our platform, and we give them very unique insights as to the health of their business, focusing on things like cash flows and forecasts. At the same time, we offer banking services in the back. So we want to be, if not their primary bank, we want to enable workflows that are specific to an e-commerce business. So we also use open banking, not only to integrate and surface data, but also to facilitate payments into these bank accounts that we service and to facilitate their spend. So for us, what started as a buzzword, I guess, has become really front and center of our business. And we see the use cases expanding internally, month by month, just about. And working with Yapily has been great in that sense. I think our customers have seen the same. I think we started out in the early days as sort of a competitor to your Amex card, where you can spend specifically aimed at media spend. And we've seen that evolve in customers seeing different value proposition, and primarily because of open banking. So in some cases, a customer would join us because they wanted the credit card to spend on media, and then found that because of open banking, they were able to gather a lot more data or a lot more value out of our platform just through the centralization of the data, bringing their bank accounts into the platform and getting insights that they would otherwise not have. So for us, that's really been key. We also use it for credit underwriting. So we're really in the business of shortening the process and offering a banking experience that is tailored to the needs of an e-commerce business. So the idea would be quicker underwriting, to offer credit products as and when they need it. And for that, of course, financial data is critical. So in a nutshell.
Awesome. Thanks, Shelley. It does sound like you started off with what seemed to be a clear one use case, and it has evolved into a myriad of different use cases that you maybe didn't even anticipate in the first instance.
Absolutely. I think that's characteristic of a nascent industry. I know that people always know what open banking is for, but the use cases sort of evolve as you move through it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we see the same thing from, just by sort of working across a lot of different industries. We see that kind of adoption and growth across discovering different use cases that one didn't particularly even thought was possible. So really fantastic application, and just shows the versatility of open banking, how that could be leveraged to solve very different particular problems across very different businesses. And maybe on that point, Rolf, quick insight as well on Cresco and how you leverage open banking, and what sort of learnings have you gathered along the way as you've been on this journey so far?
Sure. So, I mean, we target these sort of invoice payments there for SMEs, and it's important, maybe when it comes to payments, you can think of, you have point of sale payments devices that are handled by SumUp, Square, iSettle. That's not us. Then you've got e-commerce checkout solutions that may be handled by Stripe or Adyen or checkout.com. That's not us. Our target sort of transaction size might be anywhere to a single payment of £5,000. It was probably previously done in a very manual process. Maybe you send somebody some bank details, an account number, an IBAN, a sort code, a SWIFT, a BIC, a string of addresses, where you would have had to manually put this into your bank account, and that was subject to human error and human inertia. We're now bringing that online to make that payment much easier while handling the reconciliation on the other side for the SME. And it's a pretty simple product, but there's quite a large market to address. That's really it.
Awesome. Great. Thanks for giving that oversight. And I guess moving us and just setting a bit of a context here. And unfortunately, this year 2022 will most likely be remembered in the history books as one of the years where that social, political, economic issues emerged and converged globally. And in our recent study that we published this week on open banking financial well-being, the businesses that we surveyed reported in the last 12 months that 3 in 4 of them have been turning to financial products to help them navigate this current crisis. We hear that the cash flow is drying up, the late payments are becoming a bigger problem than is ever before. And our research shows that businesses are looking for that timely access to credit, that better control of their cash flow, and ways for cutting down the operational and payment costs. So with that context, maybe I'll, Shelley, turn to you. What sort of observations on challenges your business customers are currently facing have you made as a business, and what role does open banking play in helping your business customers to help overcome that?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely right. Our customers are right in the middle of the impact of an economic crisis. So for us, it's all about introducing efficiencies. We have to free up time for our business owners to focus on what matters most, working on their business rather than in it. So it's all about introducing efficiencies, and whether that be cutting down the amount of time required to apply for a loan, or whether it means cutting down on the amount of time taken just to do basic administration. So you can imagine if you have multiple bank accounts in an organization and you have to log into each platform to get your daily balances, we're trying to remove the pain of that so that our customers can focus on what's most important, and that is managing cash flow and making sure that they're financially healthy. And then on that angle, we're also trying to give them insights that allow them to do it. So our mission is really to be their companion, as I said, throughout their life cycle and their daily operations. And open banking plays a part in every one of those steps. We use it for underwriting so that we cut down the time required for them to give us all the documentation and information we need. We anticipate some of that just through the data that we gather. And interestingly enough, because we are now gathering data on them as well, our insights get much richer. And then, as I said, introducing efficiencies by automating workflows that are specific to an e-commerce business so that they spend less time on doing these sort of arduous, repetitive tasks. And then the cash flow insights, it allows them to understand what their financial needs are, and they can go straight to the chase. Part of that also for us is just offering products as and when they need it. So for instance, in the case of credit, and that we also do with, insights that we gather from their bank account data. So really, we've been able to enrich or add to our value proposition considerably through open banking, moving us very swiftly away from things that are commodity driven, like cashback and rewards and interchange fees, for example, that may have been attractive to or as part of competitor solutions in the past.
Awesome, fantastic. It's interesting to hear how you're just briefly touched on that kind of moving away from that commodity space and then using simple, technology to help you actually solve for the real value and actually, hopefully that value then able to differentiate in the market. Ralph, maybe on your perspective, what is it that you're hearing from your customers? What are the challenges that you've heard them describing as a result of the current climate that we're in?
Sure. Yeah, I guess any business tool, I mean, just listening there, is designed to save you time and or money, and we're no different. So you're optimizing processes, making things more efficient, just improving things at the marginal gains. Focus on payments. It's very well known that payments are overdue. They're paid late. Where we help a lot, and we really do help, is that we get payments paid quicker. Now, we can't force somebody to pay faster. If they don't want to pay, they won't pay. And we're not providing you with some working capital discounting solution that will bridge the gap. But we do make it more convenient for your payer to pay you. And it's by increasing the convenience of the checkout for the payer that you increase the propensity to be paid. So I think we help a lot at the human inertia space by just making that a lot easier. And if it takes a second to pay somebody, you go, okay, I'll do it. If it takes 3 minutes, you'll go, I'll do it later. And then it's in your to-do list with all the other things in my to-do list that don't get done. So yeah.
Awesome.
Thanks, interestingly enough, what we're observing also is that price isn't enough anymore, which is kind of contradictory, I guess, or sort of not expected. But pricing is not enough. So offering better cashback percentage is marginal, and the next competitor, which is undercut. So for us, it's really been about focusing and honing in, as Ralph said, on making life more convenient, saving time, introducing efficiencies, which over time adds up to a lot more pronounced value. Hooking your customer into your platform and what it is that you have to offer.
I think you touched there on a really important point that price is not enough anymore, right? You can definitely sort of differentiate on price, but how much of a runway is that going to give you? You start figuring out like what are the real problems that you're solving here and for the longevity of that. And it's interesting to hear both of your perspectives here, how essentially open banking enables you to kind of figure that out as well. But as we're, all talk, put open banking on a pedestal, it would be great to hear your perspectives, maybe starting with Shelley. What are some of the challenges that you have seen or have come across when using this technology?
Yeah, for us, it's been a lot about coverage and geographical reach. So for us, efficiency is also important. We're a startup, just 2 years old. So for us, it's super important to grow with our customers. We have to have a solution that scales and that grows with our customers as they internationalize and start going cross-border. So for us, it has been, quite interesting to see how the quality of data and often the reach in terms of banks in a specific region differs from one country to another. And we've been working very closely with our providers to sort of work on that. But for us to be able to scale and offer a continued service to our customers, it's super important that we can offer them consistency no matter where they operate. So I think there's still some work to be done there. And I think it's just generally, these are all emerging use cases. So, nothing's been proven yet. So there's a lot of trial and error involved. How much data is required to make a reliable decision that doesn't lead to, as Ralph said, late payment or, your inability to collect based on a loan. So it's just the fine tuning as well, that relying on this data so heavily is not the tried and tested way. But for us, super exciting because the longer we're in it, the better we understand the potential value that's yet to be explored as well.
Yeah. Ralph, anything to add from your perspective on some of the maybe challenges you have encountered?
No, I certainly agree with Shelley. Like understanding the geographic coverage, not all markets are the same. For us at the beginning, it was also a lot of user education. Nobody had actually made an open banking payment before. It was sort of as kin and as scary as a crypto payment or even contactless payments a while ago that people didn't like at the time. So there's been a fair bit of education over that, but it's, you have the opposite of churn where typically somebody uses something and then they stop using it after 3 months. Here, you can see that they use it with increasing frequency month on month, which is great.
Shelley, sounds like you have a vocal audience in the background.
I do. I'm sorry. You can hear that. The dogs are passionate about open banking as well, apparently.
It's great. We all are on this call. And maybe for just a quick a suggestion, I guess, for the audience that are just exploring open banking for their business, how have you measured success of open banking in your business, and what the audience can take away of that approach for themselves? Ralph, maybe starting off with you.
Sorry, can you say that again?
How do you measure success of open banking at Cresco?
Okay, so open banking is not a feature for us. It's very much our go-to-market product. There are many card payment mechanisms, some that were manual, others that were probably designed by Oracle systems for large enterprises, others like PayPal and Stripe. We've just delivered sort of open banking payments through ourselves. And for us, it's customer loyalty, and a big one, our North Star is the NPS score, which it's high 70s at the moment, and that's great. I'd much rather a small set of very happy customers than a large set of customers that are going to leave us in 3 months. So that's really key for us.
Awesome. Sounds great. And Shelley, are there any sort of ways where you sort of measure open banking and its impact to Junie?
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with Ralph. For us, it's also not a distinct feature. The previous point around user education, for us, it's not really a thing because we don't have to educate them about anything other than our own user experience. But I think the measurement of success for us has been how it's impacted our ability to ramp customers. Because we consider a customer active once they've spent money using our financial products. But in order to do that, they have to, top up their account. They have to potentially apply for and get allocated with a credit line and so on. So for us, it's all been about the time it takes to get a customer to the point of ramp, becoming an active converted customer. And we've seen some drastic improvements there. So yeah, even though it's not a feature, we do think that it's been instrumental in securing our own ability to ramp up our customers.
Right. Thanks. I guess let's move on with another poll. And let me launch the poll. The question that we'll be asking is, where is open banking adding the most value for business customers? Do you, as an audience, do you think it's to improve risk assessment and underwriting? Would you see more coming into payments and cheaper bill and invoice payments? Do you see adding value through real-time cash flow insights and management, reduced admin or process automation, or ability to better offer financial products for businesses in general? Please cast your vote, and we'll be closing the poll in a second. I'll open for a couple more seconds, a bit longer. Okay, we'll be closing the poll now. Thank you so much for that. So let's see what the results. Okay, so we have a very, I guess, with these kind of questions, there's not one right answer, right? So what we're seeing is interesting sort of focus on ability to offer better financial products for businesses. I guess that's definitely one that is very close to Yapily's heart, to make sure that the open banking technology is inclusive and provide more value, particularly also for business customers that have been neglected a really long time. We're seeing second place with real-time cash flow insights and management. Again, it's a very interesting choice from the point that we've seen a lot of open banking use cases being around automation, ability to sort of take more control of the cash flow. So it's fantastic to see that coming through as well. And in third place, they got split between risk assessment and automation and reduced admin time. So I'll hide the results. It's very interesting when just looking at the audience reaction in the report that we launched earlier in this week. We saw most of the value that was shared by business customers was predominantly in two areas. One was on attributing value of open banking to automation and reduction in time spent. And I'm hearing some of these themes and topics coming from, Ralph and Shelley, from both of you. And then secondly, on reducing costs, and that is administrative costs and payment acceptance costs. So again, it's very interesting to sort of see results that are slightly in par, but also kind of hearing the audience talk a lot more around risk is definitely something at heart of what Junie's about as well. I'll move us on to, I guess, the next section. And as with any sort of market uncertainty, we've seen time and time again, there's that shift towards execution and shift toward focus. And it's only natural that businesses will focus and prioritize on customer retention, focused on generating revenue. We have seen open banking as being that lever that businesses can improve that product stickiness, increase customer lifetime value. We already in some of the questions we were unpicking that a little bit, but we'd love to kind of dive right in there. And maybe Shelley, starting with you, if you could tell us how Junie is using open banking to improve that product stickiness with your customers.
Yeah, I mean, it starts out with just keeping customers on your platform for longer. You want to be part of more and more of their flows. And we always say that we want the Junie platform to be the first thing that an e-commerce owner or CFO thinks about when they wake up. I don't know that that's necessarily how it will be, but for sure, that's the intent, right? Is that they can fully explore the value and the different options that we provide. And I think in all of the journeys that I've described, we've used open banking to do that. For example, one of the first things that they would do once they've onboarded with us is to top up their account. By keeping them on our platform to do that, it means you have more opportunity to hook them in and to make them comfortable with your user experience. And so we do the same, the credit application process. We try and do all of it online so that we are capturing their attention. And that remains the objective, say, how can we improve the process so that they're spending longer doing the workflows that add value to them whilst shortening the administrative overhead and the painful side, the painful side of all of those processes. And I think we've just scratched the surface. So for us, we are seeing gains at every step of the way, and I'm pretty sure there's more to come. But yeah, open banking or the technology itself has really allowed us to dive deeply into that.
Right. Ralph, love to hear your perspective on that as well. How have you sort of leveraged or plan to use open banking to drive that customer loyalty value and drive that stickiness with your product?
Yeah, sure. We always say internally that the most important asset on our balance sheet is happy customers. Happy customers, they don't leave you. So then it's how do you make them happy? Like, what do they want? And as we've kind of been saying throughout this entire sort of conversation, is open banking can save them time and money. So if we look at the money aspect from a payments point of view, if they have to use Stripe or PayPal to receive payments, they're giving up 2-3%. If that's on a £10,000 transaction, that's a huge amount of cash. That's pure profit that they're losing on gross margins or bottom profit margins, and they don't need to give it up. So we save them that money. And if their profit margins are 5%, they go from 5 to 8% overnight. That's great. So they like that. And then the other side is probably something I underestimated when I started the company, was how much time we saved them from a reconciliation point of view. Because it actually if you receive payments manually, it's a nightmare to reconcile. And if you receive them by card payment schemes, that are a nightmare to reconcile. What arrives in your bank statement is a peculiar hash that Visa needed to understand somewhere in the middle to move money from A to B. That's not the case with us. If your invoice number is INV 1001, it goes in your bank statement as INV 1001. And the other thing that we sort of work out is we make sure where it works and where it doesn't work, because it's not for all people and all companies. And so we're not trying to put a square peg into a round hole, and we make sure that when we land with the right customers and they're really happy and they're not going to leave us. And that's kind of like knowing knowing where we can win, our comparative advantage, and knowing where we lose, and then we go, please, try somebody else. Yeah.
Interesting. And maybe just interrogating this topic on the flip side, both of your perspective, maybe, Ralph, maybe staying with you, what are the consequences for businesses that are not thinking about open banking? What do you think they are missing out, or what are the risks in the long term?
I think open banking is a new piece of technology that has various pros and cons with it, but it's an inevitable piece of technology. I always say internally it's a matter of when and not if this gets universally adopted. And those that use it will just have a first mover advantage. When we talk about sort of cost savings, it was interesting. I do remember when the price of oil dropped from $100 to $50, and the thought was that all the shale gas companies in the US were going to go out of business. And they suddenly realized they needed to tighten their belt and make their processes more efficient. And they have, and now they're great. And maybe there's a few Luddites that went out of business. But it's going to be the same with open banking. There are some companies that are going to be able to stay with their old processes and, we're not going to be inclined to change. And when things are good, don't fix what isn't broken. But now things that people are going to become slightly more price conscious. They're going to start looking to optimizing their workflow. That inevitably they're going to think open banking is a fantastic tool to make my business more efficient, and they'll just have that first mover advantage.
Interesting. Yeah, I think we're also kind of hold that philosophy around it's a matter of when rather than if, and we're definitely seeing that narrative kind of changing over the years, where it was all about, I think Shelley, you mentioned that being a buzzword, and now enabling so many different use cases around your business. And we've definitely seen that conversation with the market evolving from what is this buzzword all about to now like, oh, there is definitely some value. What is that value? Is there more to it? And obviously we kind of, looking ahead, I guess that runway towards open finance and open data is kind of laid out. It's, I guess, Ralph, on your point is, how do you start understanding and kind of joining and exploring those early so you don't, you don't miss out. If there's definitely some legacy technology companies that are still operate today, do they have expiration date? I guess we'll see. Shelley, maybe is there a perspective, anything from your point to add on?
Yeah, I would say, just to Ralph's point as well, it becomes more difficult to introduce competitive advantage if you're not thinking about this. And you're right, this is nascent, so we're still figuring out what all the use cases are. There's so many fintechs who have moved and solved problems that the incumbents have not solved for decades. So I think that, there's companies that say, well, my use case hasn't yet been solved by open banking or anything else, so I might as well just carry on because I have loyal customers. But the reality is somewhere, breathing into your neck is the next company waiting to disrupt that market. I think open banking offers such an amazing opportunity to think about innovation. Are there these problems that are inefficient? I used to work in FX here in South Africa, and it's super old-fashioned and clunky. And many of the incumbents say it doesn't really matter because everybody does it this way. But just takes one, to disrupt that and to challenge the status quo. And then these companies are left behind. And to come from behind and convince people that the old way is still the right way, there's a space for that. But why would you want to lag behind and not participate in innovation and doing things differently and really helping people? Because I think for both Ralph and I, that's really it, solving customer problems, making their lives easier and making them excited about, having you as part of their life cycle or their journey. So yeah, I think it's just short-sighted to not be thinking about it, even if you end up dismissing it and not adopting anything. It's worth just having a position.
You both touched on the notion of competitive advantage, have you seen your industry changing as a result of open banking? And has that maybe given you some form of advantage as well in the market that you operate, or has that kind of caused a new ripple effect across the space that you currently operate in? Shelley, maybe we keen to get your perspective.
Yeah, I think I've kind of alluded to this already. You know, it's a growing market, so I'm constantly having a look at what others are doing in the space. There are many fintechs obviously honing in on what the traditional banks were doing, all of the inefficiencies, all of the things that were slow and manual and painful. And so I think, yes, it's created this whole new space, right, of companies who specialize in open banking and also open finance use cases. So I'm really excited about the growth, and I love the idea that we're getting more and more competitors that also challenge us to do things, to keep on top of our game, and to keep rethinking how we do things and be ever more innovative, and to shift the needle in terms of how we implement things. So I'm really excited about, absolutely, more and more companies popping up. But it's also an opportunity because we do believe in partnerships. So very often another company solving a problem in a particular way could potentially add value to our customers. So yeah, it's all very positive, albeit keeps us on our toes.
Interesting. Ralph, a positive take on from your perspective, or do you have different thoughts on that?
I have to be kind of careful. I'm not sure who's on the call, but I would say that sort of open banking is a little bit like teenage sex. So everyone says they're doing it, probably nobody is. If they are doing it, they're probably not doing it very well. So you do hear a lot of talk about open banking, and when it comes to payments, you can see even the large companies, the Stripes, the Mastercards, the Visas, they've all entered into the space. But I'm sort of waiting to see it implemented, and when implemented properly. So it'll be interesting, especially to see some companies have to eat their own lunch from a payments perspective. PayPal makes $5 billion a year in free cash flow. They're not going to give that up overnight. I'm apologizing for PayPal is listening.
Yeah. I totally agree with you, though. It's like, anybody who says they're doing open banking probably isn't. And from our perspective also, there's different lenses to open banking. Is it you exposing your services to others through an open API, or is it you consuming services from a distributor? So I think the space is also somewhat, this term that is all encompassing, and we don't actively say, oh, what are we doing with open banking, only because we're in EMI now recently, but generally speaking, it's just more about solving problems. So with Ralph, very skeptical about those who talk about their doing open banking.
Yeah, it's interesting kind of hearing you both sort of reflect on that, and definitely interesting comparison, Ralph, on your side. It's a first that I've heard, which is very unique, but it's definitely what I hear both of you saying, just also kind of echoing what we hear day in and day out, is you don't necessarily, you always talk about the value that you deliver to the customer, right? And open bank is that technology, definitely the sort of space that we play in, right? But how can we help our customers with the problems that they have and more accessible and useful for the market and consumers? Maybe just taking a bit of a future gazing view, Ralph, maybe starting off with you. What sort of exciting initiatives do you have on your roadmap? That will rely on open banking. What does the future hold for you?
Open banking in itself is pretty exciting. We're still at the very early stages. There's a lot of people that talk about jumping into open finance, and it's like, well, no, I mean, there's still a lot left to do here. I mean, it's the first piece of sort of technological innovation I've seen really in the payments industry for decades. So a lot of it is about just delivering this product without having to build a further product, and delivering it across the markets, both domestically and internationally, and just continuing on that process and improving your STP ratios, your straight through processing ratios, and kind of staying pretty focused on here's the new payment mechanism, let's get it into as many hands as possible. I think international growth is very, very exciting. The UK did have a first mover advantage, but banks have been sitting there for 2,000 years, APIs for 70 years. Just, eventually, the APIs are going to go onto the banks, and whether that happens in France, Spain, Germany, Mexico, Brazil, they need to be connected to, and those payments need to move from real to sterling and from sterling to euros, and that's something that we're sort of very much focused on.
Awesome, very exciting. Shelley, anything exciting on your roadmap?
Yeah, I think for us it's about including, these open banking solutions, and I'm with Ralph. I mean, I read up a little bit about open finance, and it's basically what we do already. Constructing financial solutions and products for our customer segment using this financial data. So for us, it's just embedding it more and more into the processes and the problems that we solve. Internationalization is a big thing as well. We'd love to expand with our customers, so we need to keep working at the solutions we already have. But it is thinking about, as we enrich our data, as I said before, the more we grow with our customers, we're getting more insights and collecting more data. How do we bring it all together into something that can offer a cohesive and fit for purpose financial product to the customers as and when they need it? And open banking is part of all of that.
Amazing. Definitely from our perspective, I guess, we're kind of setting up that runway and that path towards, Ralph, you already mentioned, towards open finance. We could probably have another webinar discussion whether open finance is even here. But I guess from our perspective, we're kind of agnostic in terms of whether that's here or that here. Open banking is what we're starting, right? And that's where we're seeing, companies like Cresco and Juni really owning that and delivering some fantastic propositions to the market. It's been great to sort of seeing those new these use cases and open banking being used in so many interesting ways, and helping businesses like yourself sort of owning your space and serving your end customer. I guess that kind of closes off our sort of main part of the discussion. So we'll be taking some of the questions that have been coming through, and thanks for submitting those. So the question that we're getting is, and feel free to add more questions as well as we close off on the Q&A. What advice would speakers give to businesses starting out with open banking? I guess we had quite a big audience group learning about open banking. So Shelley, maybe starting off with you, bit of reflection on how this journey has been and what would be some of the advice points you would give.
Yeah, I would say starting out with the journey, open banking can be intimidating, because as I said before, it covers quite a few topics and angles. So be very clear on what it is that you're trying to achieve and hone in on the problem that you're trying to solve, and make sure that you truly understand how to get that going. I would also say that picking the right partner is super important. And different open banking partners, hone in on specifics of open banking. Some specialize in payments, some specialize more in aggregation of data. So, it's really important that you understand the problems you're trying to solve, that you're partnering up with someone who can be a partner and not just a solution provider, because it's so nascent. There's a lot of work to be done, and we're growing together as partners, I like to believe. And I think the other thing is just keeping your eye on the market. We've been very lucky in looking at what others have done before us and trying to improve on that. So I think it's really important to understand what others are doing and try to adopt that for your customer segment, and spare yourself a lot of pain in the process. That would be my advice.
Ralph, what has been the journey so far for you? Any tips and advice for the audience?
Yes, I would completely agree with that. You really got to know what the problem is. Open banking is a super cool piece of technology. Like I do think it's really exciting. It's going to get better every year for the next 20 years. But perhaps some people, for the person with a hammer, everything looks like a nail. So you've really got to know what problem you can fix with it, and where it works and where it doesn't. And then a partner would be a great person to help you walk down that journey.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I can say there's no one size fits all, right? Mm-hmm. And trying to sort of cover everything with one exercise just isn't possible. So yeah, I fully agree.
I have an audience question. I think maybe this with the data angle, maybe Shelley, that would be one for you to reflect. So while we explain what open banking is, how will you actually use the data to implement it? How do you implement a service to a client? The data themselves, they think they need. What would be your thoughts and reflections on this question?
Can you just repeat that? Sorry, you cut out just for the middle part. How do we implement?
How will you actually use the data and implement it? And how do you implement a service to a client that they don't know that they think they need? Essentially, how do you sell open banking with your act as a reseller?
Sure. I mean, first off, we don't call it open banking at all. As Ralph said, it's not a feature for us. In fact, we call it integrations on our platform, and it spans multiple things, not just bank accounts and open banking per se. So for us, it's all about, showing that we understand our customer journey and the things that they battle with. So for example, Shopify integration is a big thing, Gmail, being able to pull invoices into our platform. So it's become, as we speak through the workflows that are relevant in e-commerce, we sort of roll it up into a bigger exercise of, assisting them in their daily needs. And how we implement it is really simple. They consent, they give access, and we pull their bank account information and we surface it. So it's quite intuitive and it's very simple. And it is a thing. There's some education involved, but there's generally an aha moment. So we have a strong sales force that guides them through the onboarding ramp-up period. And it is about just showing them that aha moment to say, here you are, all your relevant financial information visible on a single dashboard. But it's absolutely right. I mean, we stay away from buzzwords and things that kind of sound like it's a foreign object, and we contextualize it and translate it into something that is relevant for them and that focuses on solving the problem and adding the value. And then it's a hop, skip, and a jump before they generally start with pull one bank account in, and the rest can happen naturally.
Ralph, from your perspective, with the payments hat on, do you see your target customers being problem aware, or of the fact that payments are very expensive? Do you see them actively looking for solutions, or do you see them kind of explaining that concept of open banking and just hand-holding them through this new technology and regulation and so on?
I mean, there's definitely like a sales process, so there's definitely education that sort of happens. I mean, we're not trying to like force it down their throats.
Throw it at them, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But no, I mean, if I go downstairs, they're not just queuing up outside. So we have got to like.
They're not.
About it. Sorry. I don't think so. Yeah.
I think also from our perspective, although we've been living and breathing open banking for quite some time now, there's still, in our recent research, I think we still saw around 30% or so businesses are aware that open banking exists. So there's a huge opportunity that is a huge market that just not even aware of the technology or not necessarily understanding its application to their business. So there's still a lot of work to be done. There's an industry discussion whether we need to educate on open banking or should we just educate on better financial products, right? And it's different approaches we're seeing and probably should be doing both, but educating through.
Well, I think if you focus on the product, it's a lot easier. It's like, when somebody yaps on to me about Web 3.0, what's the product here?
What does it mean?
Otherwise, you're just talking about really cool technology like decentralized. So it's not.
Yeah.
What is that? So open banking.
I totally agree with that. Yeah, it should be fully invisible, right? And for us, for example, in the credit space, when you tell a customer, well, you don't have to submit 3 months of bank statements and this form and that thing and this, proof of whatever, you can just link your bank accounts and we'll use that data. So an easy sell, right? So all of the issues, and the other thing that comes up regularly is this sort of trust issues that some people have, maybe more on the consumer side than on business. But when you've built trust with your customers around your ability to treat their money safely and securely, that all goes away. So I agree fully with Ralph. If you've built a solid value-adding product, they trust you, and you don't have to. Don't have to add all these weird terminologies to sort of buy credibility, if you will. If you can demonstrate the value with a single demo, which is how we generally handle it, you're golden.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, we hope that we answered that question. I think we're over time, and I guess I just wanted to say thanks to both Ralph and Shelley for a discussion. It's been great to hear more about your journey, your learnings, your use cases. Thanks for the audience that joined us today as well. We hope our discussion provided some insight to how the businesses can respond by using open banking to the current uncertainty that we all are in. And thank you so much for joining us today. And yeah, we'll wish you all the best for the evening. And yeah, thanks for being with us today.
Thanks for having us.
Bye,
It's been a
Shelley.
pleasure. Thanks.
Yeah.
Cheers. Bye.